haven't heard of Pear Deck, actually, let's go ahead and just log into my session first. We all have devices, which is great. So if you can do me a huge favor, go to joinpd.com and then log into my session with this 5-letter code. You'll be in the session, and I'll take it from there. So when you launch a Pear Deck lesson each time, this is the screen that your students will see. So it's going to lock them into your lesson, have them into your lesson, and you're going to be controlling the lesson through Pear Deck. How's it going? Do you have a device with you?
A laptop?
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
When you get settled in, if you could just go to joinpd.com
Sure.
and then log in with this. Did everyone get logged in all right? Awesome, awesome. So for those of you who haven't heard of Pear Deck, I see some familiar faces out in the crowd, which is awesome. But so Pear Deck, we were founded by educators, and we are a platform of formative assessment and student engagement tools. And so we are on a mission to create powerful learning moments by helping teachers engage every student every day. That's what we do. Our former founders and our founders, they were former educators that wanted to use technology to help utilize it during the classroom and engage students. And I think another reason why I'm here today specifically is because Elizabeth Hernandez and Leslie Orkenhagen, yes, I was like, oh, I'm going to butcher that last name. So before they had reached out to us, there was this pent up want for Pear Deck, and we saw it because we had a bunch of teachers from Fairfax using it, but it kind of stopped there. And then Leslie and Elizabeth said, hey, by the way, we're with Fairfax, and we approved you. It's like, okay, nice to meet you. Didn't know that we weren't approved. So that's probably a big reason why we weren't able to be utilized in classrooms like we are moving forward. And it's been great to work with them, but then also working with the SBTS on the ground at the schools. And I know that you're no longer in the classrooms, but we were all probably former educators at one point, and technology is super fun, super awesome, and with the whole SBTS on movement. High schools are going to be one-to-one this year, correct? And then it's going to be over 2024 when everyone is going to be one-to-one.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I've been kind of doing my research behind the scenes and just kind of scoping out. I mean, I actually took this from your website, and it's we want to create and engage every student every day, but this was specifically from your SBTS on website. It's like, wow, that's actually very similar to what we do. So aside from Elizabeth and Leslie saying, hey, we give you the green light, I can see why there might be some correlation before all that. So we're super excited to be working with Fairfax and all the schools and all the SBTS. So before I move on, I know that most of us are in high school. I know you did an intro, sorry, I was kind of listening in the back, but I didn't really see. But there are some non-high school schools here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's K-12.
K-12, okay. Are most of you all one-to-one or cards? What's the situation with your devices?
That would be probably pretty very.
I guess, and then I asked that because you don't have to specifically be one-to-one today if you have the ability to have devices like cards and those are floating around. Pear Deck is something that you could supplement when you've got those devices, because I'm sure as a teacher and you're working with your teachers, you could tell them, well, you can use Pear Deck when you've got devices for interactivity and for engagement in that sense. So just wanted to say you don't have to be one-to-one, you just have to have the ability to have devices occasionally to use Pear Deck.
And I was going to say, some of our high school teachers, they just have their kids pull out their phones. It works really well on
I heard a
Sorry,
sigh.
we just want to know so.
My admin just went away for the day. We're not allowed to have cell phones out anymore. It's going to make things a lot more difficult.
Okay. Well, if
That's
you
all
can
right.
be creative,
Yep, we'll be fine.
be creative. If not, you can talk to, the district powers that might be
Yep.
to hurry up the system and get me
Hurry
some
up.
devices.
Yes, you do.
It's all in your hands.
So, what we'll cover today, I know you have me for a short hour, but what we are going to do is essentially I'm going to put you in the seat of a student for my presentation. Essentially, you're going to be experiencing it as if I'm running through a lesson as a teacher, and you're going to be experiencing it from your devices as a student. So I wanted to flip it over to you, and some of this will be a review to some of you, but if you've never seen Pear Deck, it'll make a lot more sense as I go through each slide. So secondly, discover the powers of Pear Deck's teachers' tools. I'll be going through all of that within this presentation, so you'll see how teachers are utilizing it and how teachers or students are experiencing it during a Pear Deck lesson. And then we're going to create your own first Pear Deck through our Google Slides add-on. So all of this is being built with Google Slides with the help of our add-on that allows you to make any lesson that's already existing or anything new in Google Slides, as well as in PowerPoint, but I know that Fairfax is going strictly through Google pretty much, correct? Or that's what they want you all to tell your teachers to use. If you have teachers that are already using Google Slides all the time, they're lesson building through Google Slides, like this will be super easy for you to tell them about, because there is an add-on that literally, you can't create a Pear Deck without having Google Slides or PowerPoint, and you'll see what that looks like when I have you build your first presentation. And then ask any questions, please. If I go through something too quickly, or if there's something that you want me to go back, feel free to raise your hand or just shout out a question as I go through this presentation. So before I get started, does that sound good to everybody? Is there anything else like you want me to cover that you might have saw before we got in here? Cool. And I do want to point out in the top right-hand corner, so if you do have students that are coming in a little bit late, you always have that join code that's up there. So as long as they know to go to joinpd.com, just type in that 5-letter code, and they'll be prompted real time to where your presentation is or your lesson is. So you kind of did an intro before I did, so you kind of took my thunder there. So, but let's go ahead and reintroduce yourselves. I'm going to flip it over to you. So there's going to be a few series of questions. These will be a quick intro, but then I'm going to show you how like a biology or social studies teachers would use Pear Deck in the classroom. But to kind of break the ice a bit, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. So if you could share your role, your school, and your favorite food, that'd be great. And as you're working on these, I'm actually projecting all of your responses in real time. So I see Tabitha, Laura at Frost, Regina at Hayfield. Oh, hey, where's Kim? Hey, what's up, Kim? It's Robert. Yeah. We were just emailing, and Marshall High just came on as a Pear Deck school, so this is really cool to see you. So as you can see, I think most of us are somewhat acquainted with each other, but just a quick intro, short text response. I'm having you all write your answers here, and it's an open format where you're typing in your responses. I do want to point out that the important thing of being able to project your responses to your class, and again, this is up to your discretion of your teachers. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you that you can, to have collaborative discussion and get all those responses in the front of your students. But essentially, this is all of your responses. I don't know which is response, neither do you. And that's what the important part is all of this is anonymous. So it takes away that fear of participating between your students. It takes the fear of being wrong. So we do this purposely where you don't know who is what if you are choosing to share the responses to the class. So we've got elementary, Marcus Wayne, awesome. And then Tim is with Brian as well. Cool. All right. Just met Tim this morning. So thanks for introducing yourselves. The next one I'm going to have you do is just draw a self-portrait of yourself. So if you see at the bottom row there, you're going to have, and I'm not judging you by your artistic abilities. This is an open format in terms of just having something fun to do. But if you can do me a quick favor and just draw a self-portrait of yourself. And then I'm actually going to give you a minute to work on this. You can do different things like change the color at the bottom. You can change the width by going to the far left. You can see that dot. And then you can also do different things like stamp a series of words too if you want to use like a text box.
Yes, but it means we might have AC.
This is very nostalgic because I feel like I'm back in like my elementary classroom where we didn't have air conditioning.
That's why we did that on purpose.
Thank
just,
you.
Bring back that.
Bring me back to my elementary school days. Just sweating and falling asleep because it's so hot in class. All right, so you're gonna have, it's gonna count you down here.
Yeah.
So go ahead and finish up. So, sorry. I can have you work for 30 minutes and draw some picture of yourself, but,
I'm an alien.
well, thanks for, so when that shot clock hit 0, what it did, it obviously locked you out of your screen. And what I do want to show you that is that there's a few different options. So there's 30 seconds, 1 minute, 3 minutes down here. But more importantly, you can just lock and unlock those screens whenever you like. So it's a great classroom management tools that you can tell your teachers about, because these questions are actually quite fun to interact with. And we know that teachers have 30, 40 minutes to go through a lesson. So as they're going through a Pear Deck, they have the ability to lock those screens. So it's a great classroom management tool to get all the eyes back up onto you when you want the discussion back up to the front of the class. So let's go ahead and do the fun review. So I'll say that time run out on this one, or they're just a little too tired already from being in the morning. Stick figures are always, that one's blank. Actually, let's go ahead and figure these out. So this one's actually really good. So as you can see here, this is a question type where I'm having you draw over any canvas that I'd like for you to draw over. This one is just a fun question. This is always fun to do. This is everyone's response overlapped onto one canvas. So this doesn't make much sense, but I'll show you where it's really cool to be able to identify like hotspots within a classroom over one canvas. But it's always fun just to see how cumulatively how you're all doing. And collectively, you're a Picasso, so congratulations. So just asking some questions here. This is pretty, I would hope, rhetorical. Every student deserves a voice. And I ask this because this goes to what Pear Deck does and why we do it. We want to give every student a voice. But I'll flip it back over to, this is where we get some discrepancies, and it's every student is heard. That should have been a question mark, so sorry about the grammatical error there. So we got some agrees and we got some disagrees, and we got some in the middle. So we're a little bit split, which is great, but I think that's why we get together as SBTS and have discussions and want to make sure that every student is heard. And hopefully Pear Deck is one of those tools that can help your students be heard, and have your teachers be able to have insight into your students' learning and be able to identify that through these different lessons. So we've come a long way in terms of the classroom experience. It's funny because I got the box fans and I feel like I'm back in the 90s. So as former educators or educators, we're probably no longer in the classroom anymore. But this is a over-exaggerated photo. But I think we can all relate to the blank stares. But as we evolve, you know, we've gone through the blackboard, the whiteboard, and just asking your students to respond. The Bueller scene and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I consider myself a PowerPoint kid. I was raised with PowerPoints, and that was kind of the evolution of the classroom. You know, we went from just standard lecture to whiteboard, blackboard, and then PowerPoints came in, which is great, where you're able to make different lessons, but still it's more of the one-sided lecture where you're just talking to your classroom, and not so much where it's a two-way conversation. You always have the students in the front of the class that love to be engaged and love to be involved. But we also want to hear from the other 90% of students who are just kind of staying there and just kind of taking notes feverishly as you go through these slides. So before I flip it back over to you and ask you more Pear Deck questions, I want to give you a lay of the law, if you will. So the format of Pear Deck and what the way that the universe works is that there's the first view, which is your student view. So that's going to be on your device. So whether you have Chromebooks, Dell laptops, iPads, phones, but some not so much anymore. The student view is what's going to be in front of your students, and that's important because when I ask you an interactive question, that's when you're going to answer these questions. But also when it's not an interactive question, it still has all the content in front of your face. So the sightline issues, those aren't going to be an issue anymore because everything is always going to be in front of your student's device. I personally, I didn't know I needed glasses until my sophomore year of high school, so I couldn't see the blackboard and probably affected my grades. But you know, just to be able to know that your students will have any issues of seeing that you want them to see, that's always important too. The second view, the projector view, so pretty straightforward, is what's going to be up at the front of the class. And then the third view, which is what the teacher has in his device there. So I was trying to link in with my iPad, which is what I do, but the FCPS on website was blocking me out. But you won't have any issues with that because your teachers will be logged into the Fairfax account where that's not going to be an issue. But essentially, you can have the teacher view on your device if you only have one, or you can have it up on another device, which is like a remote control essentially. And I know with Extend View, you can have it so where the projector is being on the projector. And then I'm going to show you what I'm seeing as a teacher on my dashboard to show you the responses coming in. But that's something that you wouldn't share with your class because it's going to have your names associated with the responses. So with that, I'm going to flip it back over to you and take a look at some more classroom examples, if you will. So this next question type is a draggable, and I have you drop their flags onto the corresponding countries, and I'll give you 30 seconds to answer this one.
It's a collaborative team. It's a collaborative team.
Yeah.
We thought it, but just for my own
Yeah.
remembrance.
Don't get the dashboard. Exactly. So you can project, but you just can't identify who responds. So you wouldn't be able to see that, but you can still project them to the front of class. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead and see how we all did. So this is everyone's response over one canvas. So the overlaying here, it makes much more sense. So we are actually all are on this is Spain and that's Italy. Italy is super easy to identify for the most part. It's the boot. I just learned this about Spain. So Portugal is the face and Spain is the hair. You see that? I literally just got caught. So one of the teachers that I presented to out in South Carolina taught me that. And I was like, wow, that's like, I will never unsee that now. But it was great to hear that because the whole collaborative experience of Pear Deck, I had somebody within the class teach. So in a real life setting, peer-to-peer learning, Pear Deck allows for that to happen quite a bit actually, more than you'd think. But to be able to hear that and learn that was pretty cool. So that is Spain. So this is everyone's response over onto one grid. This is a grid layout where it's more of a bird's eye view, if you will, where I can scroll through that. And then this is more of a zoomed in view if I wanted to scroll through all of your responses and share those with you as a class. Now flipping it back over to my teacher dashboard. So this is where I can see everyone's response individually. So I can see Christine's response, Tim's response, Regina's response, Jacqueline's response. So this is the formative assessment piece of Pear Deck that allows your teachers to peek into all of your students as you are going through any lesson to check for understanding, but also, more importantly, I think, to hold yourself accountable as a teacher to be able to identify any trouble spots and to know when to take a step back if need be. The teacher dashboard, aside from seeing the responses, you can also take a look at your classroom roster so you can see who's joined for that specific session. That's unique to that join code that you use when you join my lesson. If you have any troublemakers, you can actually block them from the session where you can have them where they can't participate. I know with the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, you might be thinking, well, what if they do this? Well, with the teacher dashboard, you can be proactive. You can see that. Not only can you block them, but you can also hide specific responses too, where these three dots here allows you to do that. With the draggables are pretty innocent for the most part, but when it comes to drawing and short text response, that's when the creative juices start to flow a little bit. So you can hide responses, or on the flip side, you can star responses if you want to highlight specific students. So that will actually only project those specific responses. So you can do both, yes.
Are you seeing the responses as they're created?
Yeah. So everything's real time, nothing you have to submit. So as you're either typing or moving your mouse, I can see those responses coming in on my teacher dashboard. Right, and then on the bottom here, Robert Frost. I'm assuming that's like a general.
Yep,
email.
sorry, I wanted to see the difference on the phone.
Oh, no,
versus
no, no.
the-
I didn't mean to call you out, but I wanted to show you that if you had people that, or students that weren't responding, you can see that, and if they keep not responding, you could probably, it'll probably tip you off to go over there and see what you're doing. So you can have the ability to monitor your students' learning and see if they're participating in these questions as they come up. So that's draggable. I'm going to ask you another drawing question type. For those science teachers out there, this should be easy. I'm going to have you circle the mitochondria of the plant cell, or the plant cell.
It's not a drawing.
Oh shoot, it's a draggable, right? Well, why don't you type which one you think is the mitochondria then?
Wait. Okay, so the teachable moment. You just realized you made a mistake.
You know what? So, what I can do is I can ask a new question over the actual current. So I can ask a question on the fly. So now it is a drawing question. Thanks for bringing that up. I actually did not.
We're gonna pretend you did.
I have no clue.
Here you go.
So go ahead and circle which one you want.
So in your presentation, when you did the on the fly one,
Yes.
it just added, inserted a second,
Exactly.
another frame or whatever. it is.
Exactly. And I'll show you how I did that.
Okay.
Good question.
No, the vacuum is the blue one in the center. Yep, no, it's okay. Physical science. I spent years and years doing this.
So, so rewinding back to the canvas of like everyone's face where it was just a hodgepodge of responses, this one is more of a, so it is one of these blue dots or blue squiggly things. So I can see we're a little bit all over the canvas in terms of where the responses are coming in, but I can see that there is a good contingency on the correct answer. So for the majority, good job. But again, if you wanted to do more of an individualized view where you can split those out, you have the ability to swap between the different views up here. And then going back to my teacher dashboard, I can see Jacqueline, great job. Christine, great job. Carrie, great job. I'm not grading you all, so it's okay if you didn't get it. I had to Google the answer before I started asking, so this is, again, on my teacher dashboard where I'm able to see, and it's going to look familiar, the teacher dashboard. It's just going to look a little bit different based on the question type that I'm asking you. And then the question came up, how did you ask that question on the fly? So all of these slides that you see, they've been teed up in a presentation that I already built out, but if you want to ask a question where I obviously didn't change a question type when I was building this out, you can ask a question on the current content, but you can ask it differently. So you can make it into a draggable, a drawing, a multiple choice, a free response. Or you can just ask a new question altogether and just do a new interactive question for metacognition. You can say, hey, class, okay, good job identifying where the mitochondria is. If I wanted you to write, like, what does the mitochondria do now? Like, follow that up. You have the ability to answer that. And you don't have to answer if you don't know. But anytime that you're going through a lesson where you see best fitting, you can ask questions and follow up to anything that you've already teed up into the presentation. So the powerhouse always comes up. So it is the powerhouse of the cell. Energy stuff. I don't know.
You're very specific.
Things.
Yes.
So stuff. So it definitely
My
has.
biology degree has to come to you sometime. This is it.
Great job. So let's flip it over to a social studies use history question type. So this is multiple choice. Multiple choice will never, probably ever go away, which is good. And multiple choice, it can be a mixed bag of asking a question, but it's a great way of asking a question and gauging the temperature of the class and see how we're all doing.
I wasn't sure between those two.
Looks like all right, looks like I got most everyone locked in, so I'm gonna lock you out. So, me personally, if I'm ever sharing responses for multiple choice, I always like to lock my students' screens because, yeah, so I mean, you can see here it's pretty obvious that most of us think it's John Adams, and actually John Adams is the right answer. But if you're going to do any response sharing, if you want it to be somewhat summative, blocking the answers to be able to change their answers, to me it's pretty important. But again, like this is mostly a summative tool, or I'm sorry, a formative assessment tool with Pear Deck. So we're in the process of wanting to learn, but if you wanted to lock your students' responses before you showed anything, for multiple choice specifically, I always do that. But for those of you who thought it was Thomas Jefferson, we're in DC, by the way, so I would have expected everyone to know this.
On the kids' takeaway, if they got it wrong, will they get the right answer?
It's only if they change it.
Okay.
So if you wanted to make it so all of your students had the right response, you would then say here, everyone go to John Adams to make sure they have the right response.
You can also hide slides, and they'll show up in the student takeaway.
Okay.
So if you could type in the show.
What's that? For this question type?
No, if you have hidden slides in Google, does it show up when you present?
I am not
No,
sure.
they don't. That's why they're hidden.
We found that out.
I know, but for some reason I felt like I had a hidden slide that
With
when I
Pear Deck?
presented in Pear Deck, it showed up.
It might.
But in the regular lecture.
Right, but when you're presenting through Pear Deck, it does.
I'm not exactly sure. I've never done that before.
We'll try. We'll try.
Yeah, I think it does. I feel like I was playing with it, like having the correct answer on the next slide.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so the fifth and the last question type here,
Georgetown.
it's
Oh,
asking a
Georgetown.
question,
That was last week.
answering with a number. So I wanted to actually ask you a number question relating to a year, not like a math question, because numbers, math, that makes sense. But you can do a lot more with numbers besides asking for math questions. So if you give me a year that you think or know that the year Virginia was founded.
No Googling, friends.
1600s, I believe, is the era, so that's a tip for you to use. So you got a 1 in 100 chance if you don't know.
I am a cheater. Did you have that locked to be just numbers?
Yeah, well, that was a numbers question type. So
It didn't
yes.
let me type the letter E.
It did let you look? Okay.
I don't know, just E, because I started writing just E.
Oh, I think it's because like E, you know, like when
Yeah,
it like
like,
is
so it
too
could
long.
be any,
Oh, like if it was
it's like a
any of the
maybe X
variables,
could have been done too, like if it
variable
Gotcha.
letters,
variable letters.
Y, X, Y.
Yeah.
Well, collectively, we all got the answer right. It is 1607. Well, all of your responses over a box and whiskers graph here, you can see it where it shows you any outliers, but also gives you some means and medians and different things where you can see that. And then you can split it out and see the responses individually. And then for me, I can see everyone's response. So Tabitha, good job. Kimberly, off by 63 years. Alicia, good job. Carrie, good job. And then you can see here on the teacher dashboard, I had the notes to make sure that I got it right, so it is 1607. So when you're building out these presentations, in the footer of Google Slides, when you have those different notes, those notes will actually be brought up in your teacher dashboard too if you want to have any cliff notes, if you will, of only specific slides that you're going through. So that is the question part of Pear Deck in terms of how to ask a question. So we had short text response where you type in your response, draggable where you're using different canvases to drag different dots. You can have up to 5 and have different images like tacos and race cars and make it funny. And then there's drawing, which is where you can use any canvas to have your students draw over a canvas, multiple choice, and then numbers response. So before we move on, any questions over the different ways of asking a question type over Pear Deck?
Is there a way to have a timer going while people are answering, spending a lot of time in that live?
Yeah, so back down here, so this screen where it says unlock screens. So this is something I can do at any time where you can see right now it's locking and unlocking. But if you hold down the lock screen, you can do 30 seconds, 1 minute, and 3 minutes. Where,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
It's been there.
yeah.
Sorry.
So I've been doing that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, you do have the ability to it's only 30 seconds, 1 minute, and 3 minutes though. So just keep that in mind. There's no 45-second or like 1 minute, 30 seconds. So all these questions, they've been more curriculum based, but also what a lot of teachers love doing is checking in with their students too. Social emotional learning is becoming more and more of a hot button issue, if you will. So we can ask your students, how are we all feeling? It's kind of like a thumbs up, thumbs down, like whatever. But with Pear Deck, you can actually say, how are you feeling? Drag your dot and let me know. So it looks like most of us are on the same page, and you want me to go through? Yeah.
So do you have does Pear Deck have like a repository of like created slides like this?
Yep. Yep, so great question and great timing because this is actually a pre-made slide that we have in our social emotional library. So I'll show you how to access those templates within the sidebar. We have templates for you to give you a framework of different categories. Most of the lessons that teachers are using today, they're their own lessons because most of you all have teachers that have hundreds of lessons in Google Slides or PowerPoint that they can use. And then when I flip it over to you or we flip it over to where we're making a Pear Deck, you'll see how easy it is for them to use that for anything existing or anything new moving forward. So you can also embed a website with Pear Deck. So I'm taking you on a trip, and this is in the Oval Office. So most of us have probably already seen it in person, but for those schools that aren't located in DC, I can land you on a page where I'm taking you to any website. In this case, it's a Google map image where you're looking inside of the Oval Office. Or you can do different things like embedding other web-based applications like a Kahoot, a Newsela, a Quizzes. The best part of all of this is that it's in your Pear Deck, so you don't have to have your students say, open up a new tab, type in kahoot.it or any long 50-letter URL. Yep.
Can you embed a vocabulary builder, your factory activity within a Pear Deck?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
Usually teachers.
I'm about to experiment.
Yeah. There's a link to join, so I'm sure you can actually.
Okay.
But if you want them to have a bigger screen, I would suggest like doing it outside because they're confined to the smaller screen here. But why this is important to most teachers is that one, they have the website in front of them right then and there. But secondly, if you're on like a Kahoot or some sort of activity, when you're off of it, they're no longer on it, and you don't have to worry about that, and they're still with you as you're going through your slides.
One thing I do want to mention, you can't use internal sites. Pear Deck.
Really?
Try to use one of our with Blackboard, Google. They hit the firewall, and it literally kicked me out of the presentation completely.
Really?
So.
That's our
I think that's
problem.
Okay.
It's us, not you.
So anything Fairfax related, maybe stay away from. Or if you want to just experiment with it, you can always present to yourself and see what will pop up on your screen. But make sure you're on the same Wi-Fi that your students will be, because it'll be restricted to those firewalls that Fairfax has up. So definitely keep that in mind. Most websites, for the most part, that you use on an everyday basis shouldn't be blocked. But that I don't know, so don't mark my words on that. So everything that we've been doing so far has been for active, deeper social learning for 100% student engagement. That's the whole purpose of Pear Deck and why Pear Deck came about. So that's our old logo, but our new logos actually have stickers, so you'll see what it looks like. So that is Perry, and those are all of the Google G Suite things coming into Perry. That's essentially just showing you that Pear Deck works seamlessly and integrates seamlessly with all things Google. So when your teachers are asking you, how do you do this? How do my students log in? Everything is done single sign-on through Google accounts. So just make sure it's the Fairfax Google account, not the EDU account. So they'll log into the session. That way your teachers will be able to log in when they create their lessons with their Fairfax Google account. Everything that you're creating, it's unlimited presentations in your unlimited storage in your Google Drive. So that's important too, because teachers are asking where do these presentations go. They go into your Pear Deck folder in your Google Drive or just to your Google Slides repository. We're going to be going over this here shortly, so I'll touch on a little bit, but designing all of this is all done through our add-on in Google Slides. And the question of a takeaway that was brought up, for those of you who don't know what a takeaway is it's an extension of your lesson. It's essentially a Google Doc of all of my slides that I had you participate as a teacher along with all of your responses. What's really neat about that is you as the teacher, you own those Google Docs, those takeaways. So if you wanted to go back and make notes or make comments and collaborate on them that way, you can do that and give your students any notes or any more information that you want them to see. And then all of this too, you can export all the responses into a Google Sheet. So if you did want to do any type of grading, I would say do not ask a drawing or a draggable question type because those don't export into a Google Sheet. But all the multiple choice, the numbers, and the short text responses go into a Google Sheet. So if you wanted to do easy grading, you can do that. And then I know that, are you Blackboard still, or did you switch over to Canvas?
No, we're currently Blackboard and we'll soon, and extended soon, will be school.
Schoology, I'm sorry. Okay, I knew it was one of the two. Okay. Do you all use Google Classroom at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you have teachers that love Google Classroom and utilize it all the time, we do have a Google Classroom integration where essentially you just upload your rosters. And instead of going to joinpd.com, you just send them the assignment and they log in, they click it, and they're into your Pear Deck lesson.
Will that be allowed through the API?
Yeah, you can publish the takeaways into a classroom as they come up as an announcement or a material or something. That
You're not
does
using
work.
it.
I don't know about the roster.
Because I know that like we can't
do it another.
That's
like,
okay.
sell it.
So.
Seems like Fairfax has some like proxies and firewalls that they like to have up, which is fine.
We have a lot of lawyers, you know.
I mean, you're quite the district in terms of size and scale, so I completely understand. But if you can upload your rosters, great, utilize it. If you can't, that's okay. You can still just go to joinpd.com or send them a link because you can also create a link to join a lesson that way.
And you can post that in the Google Doc.
Yes, you can do that. So student pace mode. So everything that I've been going through so far has been teacher-led. I'm going to go ahead and put on student pace mode. So pretty self-explanatory what student pace mode is. It allows you to go through slides at your own pace now. So if you go left and right on your device, you can actually go through the slides at your own pace without me controlling the slides. So it's great for any students who missed the assignment or missed the lecture. You just email them that 5-letter code, the ZINMR, turn it on in student pace mode, and they can actually go through the lesson at home, away on vacation, or wherever they're at if they're not in the class. But also for blended learning, flipped classrooms, it's great too, where you can have them go through a student pace lesson, and then once they go through that, you can have them come back the next day and go over all the material. Yes?
But can you turn on that one for specific students, or is it everybody else?
It's for the specific lesson. Yeah, so you could have like multiple lessons going if you wanted to, but you would have to pick and choose that the ZINMR lesson is the one in student pace mode. So it's either all or everyone's either in student pace mode or everyone is being teacher led. So.
And that automatically opens your question back up.
Yes. So when you do it in student pace mode, literally it just opens up all your questions, so you can go back and you can change your answers or just review anything that you've done. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off. Sorry. Bring it back up with here. So the question of templates, do you have anything created? And the answer to that is yes. So we have different things, the social emotional learning templates we got. Based on the year, so end of the year reflection templates, we made that for the end of the year, probably not applicable right now, but we're probably going to have some back to school templates that we put up into our library. Critical thinking, and then we have different coaches who submit their awesome slides like in mathematics and social studies and that type of more topic subject related, where we're building these slides out as we go. So templates are available that you can use, that you can just interject with just a click of a mouse. Be Internet Awesome. I know that this is quite the focus in terms of the SBTS on. I saw it on your website where Being and Awesome was referenced for Did Sit. Is that, I guess this is more a question for you, is the Did Sit focus, is it more for the lower levels, or is it kind of everybody? Okay. Who's heard of Being and Awesome? Okay, wow, so quite a few of you. So if you haven't heard of it, it's essentially a free module of digital citizenship that Google made. They have different things like games, but we are really excited about it because they chose to use Pear Deck to make interactive templates for their different modules. So those are already built, those are free, I'll share them with you. So if you are tasked as an SBIT to talk to your teachers about Did Sit, Being and Awesome is obviously a great place to start because a lot of it's already built out for you and it's all free. So this is just kind of an example of one of the slides that are interactive where you can draw over this, and this is what they built. What's awesome about this too, again, since it's in Google Slides, you can change the questions, you can change whatever you see up there. They just give you a framework of what they want you to kind of steer in terms of the path of the subject. Those are the resources, and you're all going to get a copy of this presentation, so you'll have everything that I had you all walk through. So that's the end of my presentation in terms of going through Pear Deck and how teachers are using it, the student experience. Any questions over what I just pretty much flew through in 30 minutes? Was that 30 minutes? That was in 40 minutes. Any questions over that? Lucky for Fairfax, you all have 7 lovely certified Pear Deck coaches. Tabitha, Heather, Mike, yes. Sorry, I forgot your name.
No, it's okay,
Christine,
Christine.
okay. And then Ryan Richardson, and then Michael Green, and then one more, I swear. But I'll email you their
Karen
contacts.
Miller.
Karen Miller, yes. Is she here today?
She's not.
Okay.
Is there a list of like all your names so if we know who to reach out to?
We'll put it in the agenda, the notes for the.
And I'll email, I have all your emails, so I'll follow up with my side presentation and then all the certified coaches. So you have 7 great resources in the district on foot that you can reach out to. If not, here's my email. You can reach out to me. I know that you all organized this and had me come out, so if there's any future SBIT meetings that you want Pear Deck to come out to, schedule permitting, we'd be happy to look into that. I have an aunt and uncle that actually live in McLean, so it's really super, yeah, so it's, it's good for me because I get to see them, and it's convenient because I don't have to pay for a place to stay. So, yes. So we have an inspirational educators, it's like not of a deeper dive as the regional coaches cohort that we did, but it's rotating. So unfortunately, like right now, I don't know when the next DC one will be, but I'm pushing for one for next year at the earliest for sure. So we'll let you all know when that comes up though. But there's different ways of getting involved too. If you want badging, that's open to everybody that I'll send to you.
You guys are coming in November to the conference, or you're just able to support us?
I didn't know. When is the conference?
November 5th.
He said you can come, but maybe somebody's gonna try to go.
It was in all of our emails.
I'll see. I should be able. Actually, you know what? Just send me the date, and I'll take a look. And if I can't come, I'll see if somebody else can come for us. If not, we'll be able to do something for you all to support the event. And is that just for teachers? Okay, cool.
Teachers and SBIT.
Right.
And
This is for anybody who wants to come.
Awesome.
Anyone who can come.
Anything that is event related that we might not know of, feel free just to email me directly. And if I can't come, I'll see what we can do to get somebody out here for us. So.
Can you do a little bit of vocabulary book again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So before we go into the Pear Deck vocab, I'm gonna have you build your first interactive Pear Deck lesson. So for this, I want you all to bring up a Google Slide presentation.
We're making what I decided to do is instead of doing like Fairfax County vocabulary, I am making a vocabulary builder with people in our building. So we have to draw symbols so people in our building, and then one of them is going to be yourself, and you have to draw a symbol for yourself.
Nice. So, if you have something that you've got teed up for the start of the school year that you're going to plan on working on with your teachers, or something that you've done in the past, go ahead and bring up something that you've created already. If not, you can just build a new one and just make sure that it's in Google Slides. And then I'm going to say a good amount of you already have the add-on, so this will be a review, but I want to show those others that don't have the add-on. So once you open up a Google Slide presentation, at the top in the toolbar, it says add-ons. So go ahead and click add-ons for me. And then once you click add-ons, it's gonna, I already have the Pear Deck add-on, but if you don't, it'll say get add-ons. So go ahead and click get add-ons. And then after you click that, if you don't see Perry pop up, go ahead and just search for Pear Deck.
And by the way, Pear Deck is 2 words.
Yes, Pear Deck is 2 words.
Both words conflict. We're those one things we have to learn in training.
Got it.
So I was not typing it right before that.
So if you don't have the add-on, go ahead and click our icon, and then it'll say get free. If you already have it, it'll say manage. So after you get it, anyone who doesn't have the add-on, do I need to go over how to get the add-on? Great. Well, if you have the add-on, go back up to add-ons, and then you'll see Pear Deck pop up now, where it says Open Pear Deck Add-on. So go ahead and click that for me. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see our beautiful add-on in Google Slides. So we're actually pretty excited because we just updated our library where, yeah. So going back to the front of the add-on, you can start by using our templates here. So there's 2 ways of asking a question through Pear Deck, through our templates or over anything that you have existing. So let's first do something through our template library and click that. And then you can see here, you can scroll through the different templates that we have ready for you. But just to like start, if you wanted to do something at the beginning of a class where you wanted to drop in this slide where after you click it, it'll pop it up automatically. So now this is a a Pear Deck short text response slide. And the question is, what did you learn from the homework? And again, you can change the question if you like. This is just more of an idea and a framework for you to get started. But more importantly, at the bottom, you can see our little footer where it says students write your response. So that'll now tip you off as you are creating your lesson that this is going to be a short text response for your students. I'm going to go ahead and delete that.
One of the things I noticed when I was creating short text responses is you don't have to like leave a space on the slide for them to respond because they're going to get that space in Pear Deck. So yeah, you don't have to worry about like having smaller text or whatever. You can fill the slide.
So this is our repository of our templates. Any questions over the templates and how to use the templates and how to get there?
So what if you drive this slide, but instead of them writing their own responses, you want them to pick from ABC? How can you change that?
Yeah, so great question. So if you wanted to use this question, but you said, hey, I want to change that to a multiple choice question. So this is where you would actually scroll down. So when you're in the sidebar, you go back to the front page of our sidebar, and then you're going to actually scroll down here. So this is how you would ask a question that you could use through Pear Deck over anything that you have created. So if you wanted to change this to a multiple choice question type, you would just click multiple choice, and this will pop up your different options. And you can add options, and you can take them away. But to add in a Pear Deck slide over an existing slide, you just update your slide. And then now you can see at the bottom here it says students choose an option. That's a multiple choice question.
And at any point when you're creating these slides, can you see what the students see? Is that kind of like so what I just created, what is their child?
So you don't see any students' responses yet because they're not logged into it.
No, the student view, I guess.
Oh, the student view. Okay, so the student view will be pretty similar to this. It'll just have different options for them to choose from. If you wanted to see what that looked like before a class to like get yourself familiar with it, if you're not familiar with Pear Deck today, you could present to yourself, join it as a student, and you could just see what the student does. Because the student experience will be the same for each of the questions if you're not familiar with that yet. So that's fine because it's pretty simple in terms of like what that would look like. Yes.
So if the kids are, if we're doing something like a short answer, is there a character amount? Like for some kids just typing away?
Nope. It's open and then they can actually do multiple responses too. Alright. So any questions over how to use Pear Deck, questions over existing slides? All pretty straightforward. So the last thing I want to do before we flip it over to vocab, so when you're done with creating your lesson, just make sure that you present with Pear Deck, not present with Google Slides. So don't do this one, do this one, the green button. And then click that, and then what that will do now is it'll pop up a new join code for your students to see. So this is now a new lesson as it's loading. I've got a few slides, so it might take a little bit. So this is now the join screen. So this is what you would have seen at the beginning of the class. And that's how you would prompt the new join code for your students. So when your teacher's asking you, how do I launch that Pear Deck lesson? It's that big green button at the top where it says present lesson.
How would this work for like departments and teachers who are using like the same presentation? They
So-
make their own copy to not get
Yeah. Unless you want it to be like a live rotating presentation, which I don't think that you want it to be, just because you don't want to present something and not know what's going on. So definitely make a copy and not share a master. All right. So any questions over Pear Deck for Google Slides?
Can you just show?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So you can't get the takeaways.
Yep. So Heather asked, how do you end the Pear Deck session? So down here, there's these three dots. And to be able to create that takeaway, you have to end the session. So make sure that you end the session and you title it. And you all should have received an email from me of that takeaway. So that's what your student would be getting. Great question.
So for like middle school and high school, that doesn't. So say we're doing like a period, and each period, and then starting. We want to go back so that there's Andy twice, and it is the day. How does that work?
So it's the same session
Just like
that
name it
you had your
grade
kids
one.
join. The responses will be the same. But if you do a new one, it'll be all different. So it'll be like a place.
So won't, yeah, so won't change anywhere.
But
It'll
also,
save automatically.
but
Yeah.
also because you can leave
Yeah,
a
yeah.
presentation
So all the
open, you could,
responses
and
that
you
your
could set it to
students
student
respond with,
page,
that's
leave
saved
it open, and it could be a
But if
homework
I start
assignment.
like say making that PowerPoint in another book, that first group, what happens to them?
I put a link
It'll
to
save.
my grade beginning, like I told you
Oh, I
at the
see,
beginning.
I see.
So if you don't want the
Prescribed
responses to be
PowerPoint
there, just start it.
teachers, and I started putting in like stress, like social emotional ones at different points.
So like when I presented a lesson, like in Google Slides, so when you want to start a new
So
session,
that's all we've been using it for. We used it at the end of last year for a lot of social emotional stuff with our staff. To kind of model. And that's why we started putting this like that.
so when you want to start a new session, just make sure that you
For new teachers that first experience.
just make sure you're always launching new sessions here. So when you want new responses, everything is blank, just make sure that you're launching new. Yes, exactly. Yep. Yep. Cool.
So I posted that in the.
All right.
I just shared the slide presentation, so I think you'll have you know what I predicted. You can make a copy. But it's heavily modified.
So that was Pear Deck for Google Slides. I've had some requests for vocabulary. Does everybody want to see real quick what vocabulary looks like?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I need to make one. I've only played as a student as well.
I have like 8 minutes. Is that going to be enough time, or is there somebody right up against the 10
There's
o'clock?
somebody that's right up, but if you had time to stick around.
Yeah, I can stick
maybe you
around.
could do that after, but I don't think she's here yet.
Okay, well, let's just go do vocab really quick. It's super simple. So believe it or not, I've been talking a lot about Google Slides and how Pear Deck works. We actually have our own website. If you go to peardeck.com, you can actually go into your teacher login up at the top right-hand corner. And this is actually where you can access all of your past sessions and see all of the past classes that you launched. So up here, there's sessions, but then also it gives you the option of doing either Google Slides or Pear Deck vocab. And this is how you would start a Pear Deck vocabulary. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this Pear Deck vocab. So now what Pear Deck vocab is, it's essentially, it's an interactive student engagement piece for vocab and retention of vocabulary words. So instead of giving them a sheet of vocab words to memorize, Pear Deck vocabulary, you can pick words for them to work on where they'll be paired into two, and they'll be drawing or writing that word in an example. So is there a vocab word that you want to work on? Let's do osmosis. Let's go back to science.
Yay!
So what's really nice is that we have an integration with Merriam-Webster Dictionary.
Sorry.
So you can either write your own definition, or you can just use what the dictionary has, and we'll go ahead and use this one. So I'm going to go ahead and play Flashcard Factory. It's going to ask you to join the session like you joined my Pear Deck for Google Slides. So go to Join PD for me again, please. And then type in the BNQUB.
I like your
Ninja
phrases.
is underwhelmed.
I don't make them up, so I can't take I can't take credit for them. So just like you would have your students log into a Pear Deck lesson for vocabulary, you would do the same by having them go to joinpd.com. Everyone get logged in, okay?
You all get logged in?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So now it's going to pair you with another person. So you're going to have to go ahead and find that person real quick.
Oh, physically?
Yes, because you're going to be working on these together.
So this isn't really a remote kind of thing.
It's more of like an in-class activity.
Okay.
Yes. Not today, unfortunately.
Okay, Jacqueline.
Definitely is. But
By the donuts.
I'm assuming that's a question for more of your special ed.
Nobody, watch out.
Or,
Yeah,
Nobody will notice. Okay, so I'm going to click the found yet.
yeah.
Oh, yes, the beginning.
So not today, but it's been definitely prodded at our product team. So I don't know like when that will be available, but as of today, it's something that we don't have out there. Yep, you're welcome. All right.
I think we're ready.
Okay, cool. So now it's going to ask you to either draw or write the example of osmosis.
So you're getting the draw. Okay.
Oh.
So draw your flashcard portion of osmosis. And then writing an example is not just copying what it says. Use that word actually in a sentence as how you would use osmosis.
Oh, it's liquid.
I know. This is a really hard word.
Sorry.
There, that's what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, it's top notch.
What science you are supposed to like to sleep on my textbook.
When I sleep on my textbook.
And then you're asking to write an example of written.
I'll do.
Really hard.
Where's my color? Glass will be gray.
That's awesome. So you're done writing, so make sure you.
Is his drawing supposed to match my sentence? Or does it matter?
You know
Oh.
what? It should actually.
Okay, so I'm making the
So
bed.
now you have to draw a student sleeping on a textbook.
I can do that.
So make sure you're done writing, but don't submit it until he's done drawing.
Yes.
So that's the teamwork portion of it.
It's making the drawing and the
It matched the example.
And then at the end,
sorry, hopefully it's making it hard to draw.
And then when you're done drawing or you're done writing, just make sure you click it. And then when you're done as a team, just make sure at the end until she's done. She's done. She's still drawing. Oh, you're fine. All right. So let's go and have someone ship one in real quick. I got a minute.
Oh, that's great.
alright, so then this.
The drawing takes a
That was
part.
All right, because we're a little short on time, if you want to go ahead and submit those flashcards, did you submit one? Why didn't I see drop down? Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. So as you're submitting your flashcards, they're actually going to pop down in real time onto the conveyor belt. So go ahead and ship it.
I don't know. I don't think it's good. Not very confident.
Coming down. So I'll give you another 30 seconds to ship it in.
My career is like not.
All right. Wrap it up here, another 15 seconds.
Disappear.
All right. Oh, good. Yes. All right, so I'm going to have you all come back up here with me again. So when you're done with everything, you go to quality control, and now we're actually going through all your flashcards as a team, collectively as a class. So for this example, osmosis, water diffusing into a cell submerged in water, water diffusing out of a cell submerged in salt water. So I'd say that's a pretty good example. So good job. So what that's going to do, it's going to give the blue team or the night team a point. I am not sure. I need help with this. So that's probably not the best flashcard. So that'll go as a no. Snail dehydrating when salt is applied to it.
That's a good one.
Is good. Nutrients going through a cell membrane. I believe that's correct. This one's my favorite.
Osmosis.
Going through my membrane.
I don't think that's a good flashcard.
You don't think that's a good flashcard?
Creative.
Okay, fine.
Creative ones.
All right, well, I'm going to say no to that.
Oh.
And then slug murder. When you put salt on a slug, the slug, what's the equalize inside the slug and in the salt? I'm going to go and say no for violence.
Hey, I didn't get for creativity. You don't get for
But they did the same thing with the snail. They just didn't
I'm
call
sorry.
it murder.
All right. So when you're done with all of your flashcards, what's really neat is you can export those into a Quizlet. So I'm actually not going to password protect this, but what this will then do is it'll take you to a Quizlet link now where you can use it in Quizlet Live. But it's literally all of your slides that I said yes to, and now it's there for review for your students to have. And you can see the different flashcards. But the most important part of this is we all worked on this collaboratively to help you retain the information as opposed to memorizing it off the worksheet. So, and with that, I'm a little over my time, so I apologize for taking 2 minutes. But that's Pear Deck vocabulary in a nutshell. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, so much.
You're very, very welcome.